Alright, we got a 1996 F350 four-wheel drive. Gonna be dropping the transmission. It is automatic. Some of it's been taken off already, but we'll get to it. So after you take this cover off right here, which is really easy, there's just four, actually here's only three. This one already had it off. I think it's only 3 bolts. Here's one of them right there. Take those out. That way you can access the torque converter bolts. I'm gonna cheat and take them off before everything else, so I can crank the engine and turn the other 3 over here. There should be 6 those torque converter bolts. So I'm gonna get these 3 out first, and then crank it so I can get the other 3. These torque converter bolts are 14s. Should come off fairly easily. I had to probably use a breaker bar, but do come off fairly easily. There's 1, and there's gonna be 5 more. So now that we got the torque converter bolts out, go ahead and disconnect the batteries. You don't need those anymore, just to make it safer to work on. Next thing I'm gonna do here is drop the pan so we can get rid of the transmission fluid. There's a lot of bolts. Winds this whole thing here. Just a 10 millimeter. I would suggest just undoing one end of it. Probably this end right here for the most part. That way transmission fluid just comes out. It's pretty messy, but if you do it this way, it minimizes how much you're gonna spill. This transmission was having issues with spilling fluid all out from right here. I believe it's got a bad, the torque converter was installed wrong, and I messed up the fluid pump in there. Yeah, so because of that, there's no fluid in this pan hardly. Actually, there is none. But usually it'd be pouring out of this side right here. You just want to catch it with the bucket. Something a little bigger than this actually bucket, like width-wise, so you can catch all of it, but this works usually pretty well. Alright, we got the pan out, and yeah, lots of metal flakes in there. Does not look very good. Also, this magnet has a lot of shavings on it. With the pan out, this is what it looks like. It's your filter right here. Got your filter right here. Dipstick poking out there. Yeah, so once it's drained out, then you just take the cover, the pan right here, and throw it back up under there. Next up, we got the drive shaft, which should be fairly easy to remove. It's just going to be those 4 bolts down there, a U-joint, and it slips out. Little shaft here just slips out. You might want to mark where the position is, the drive shaft, so when you put it on, it goes back on the way it should be, the way it's balanced. This is a 2-wheel drive transmission. If you have a 4-wheel drive truck, there's going to be a transfer case right here, another drive shaft, and there's going to be another drive shaft up here going to the front axle. Actually, right there. Yep. So, that's the only difference between the 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive. There's 2 drive shafts, but same principle, same thing. So after you got the drive shaft off, I want to go ahead and disconnect all the linkage. Already disconnected this here, it just pops right out. This little cap goes right here. Shift linkage there. There's also an electrical cord here. Mine is broken already. I believe the clip. I don't think you have to press the clip at all. Yeah, this comes out there. Get that out. If you have four-wheel drive, you want to take this off of your transmission as well. It bolts right there. Let's see. Make sure you undo these bolts as well for this, unless you're able to just take it out of here. Either way, I think you can take this out of here or take those bolts off. For me, so it's easier to take the bolts off. And on the other side of the transmission, you will want to disconnect the fluid lines. There's two of them. There's one here, there's another one up here. Just get a wrench on there, take those out. The oil, the dipstick tube, that will just come out when you lower it. Up to you if you want to unbolt it or not. But if you just lower it, there's a connecting point right here. We'll just slide right out. And then also take the starter out. And don't forget, there's actually two wires on there. One is a ground that goes to the starter itself. You won't have to unbolt that, but there's the red, the power one, positive cord you have to undo. Then there's another smaller one all the way up in the back. The starter is a little difficult to take off just because it bolts back there is hard to reach. But yeah, don't let it hang by the wires either. Go ahead and take the wires off first as much as you can. The little one I usually take off after I take the starter off. I just hold the starter up and then take the little one off because it's really hard to reach back there. We got the drive shaft out. I was gonna mention, don't forget this plug. Make sure you get that one out as well. Got the starter out, all the plugs over here, all the connectors, transmission fluid lines. Should be good to go ahead and start taking out the bolts, bell housing bolts. There should be 6 of them, all the way, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see, 1, all the way at the top up there. Kind of hard to reach, so I got a wobbly head and a bunch of extensions. Let's try to make it work with this guy right here. And gonna go ahead and undo the top 4 and leave the bottom 2 and put the jack under there. Take off the brace, take off the last 2, drop her out. Alright, so I took out the top 4 bolts. This bracket is still supporting the transmission, so it's okay. I got the 2 bottom bell housing bolts still in there. So just gonna place this tranny jack under there and jack it up a little bit, take some pressure off of it, and then undo the last 2 bolts. And then finally just take this bracket off and then lower it. Alright, got all the bell housing bolts out. Got the bracket taken off. And go ahead and lower it out. I'll go ahead and lower it here. Go very slowly. Make sure everything connected is actually off. Back this out. Let's see. This line. Like that. Alright.